The 1979 Glassboro State Baseball National Champions. The Rowan University Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2018. Having won its first national title in 1978, the 79 squad looked a little different, with the losses of Bob Pfeffer, Dino Hall, and the clutch-hitting twins of Tim and Tom Peterson. However, the 79 version of the Profs had the talent it needed to defend its crown, from Frank Albano to Tack Upshur to Matty McGarrow and transfer Brendan Rosenberg. This group from Glassboro built a bond in the fall of '78, creating a brotherhood and sharing the love of baseball on their way to back-to-back national championships.
I don't like using the word, I don't like ego, I don't like hockey, but we were confident, really confident, that we had a core group where we could compete. And I mean compete against anybody. USC, Arizona State, University of Miami, Oklahoma. I'm not saying we're going to beat them. I say we'll take you on. We expect to win.
After opening the season with a victory over Salisbury, the Profs traveled down south for their annual Florida swing. While there, Rowan played the best the Sunshine State had to offer, including the top-ranked team in Division I at the time, the University of Miami.
They knew that we had a good team because we had won the national championship the year before at Division III, so they started all of their guys, and we ended up beating them 3-1 on their field. Back in the day, there was no Tampa Bay Rays, there were no Miami Marlins, so that was a big deal in Florida.
The first game, the only people there was the manager's, wife, a couple of people maybe that worked for the university. That was the first game. And when we beat them, all hell broke loose, because the next game, there wasn't a seat in the house. It got really ugly. There was a bench clearing, old-fashioned Donnybrook.
There are many stories to the famed Rowan-Miami bench clearing brawl, which included many fans rushing the field, but the biggest loss in the entire fiasco was the injury to star pitcher Matt McGarrow. The blow to the team was big, but not one that would diffuse the Profs. McGarrow still had a major role during the regular season and would come back in a big way during the championship run.
Now that's the beauty of the team. The beauty of the team is, of course, he would have had a much greater role if he was healthy. But a guy like McGarrow, which kind of like represented the entire team, is McGarrow was the best first base coach you would ever see in the NJAC. And McGarrow was an absolute expert of stealing signs, any sign, pitches, slider, off speed, fastball, away, positioning. That's a teammate. That's a truism. That's pure baseball. That's not highlight baseball. That's not money ball. That's the love of the game.
Maybe a blessing in disguise, the Profs had that extra edge on its opponents, with McGarrow now helping out an already dangerous lineup. After returning north, Glassboro State went on a tear, winning 12 straight games. They weren't just winning, they were destroying the competition. During the run, the Profs averaged 10.6 runs a game, scoring double digits 8 times. After a loss to William Patterson, Rowan went on another streak, which would last through the World Series. With a team loaded with talent, competition was hot for starting jobs. Behind it all were two masterminds of baseball, head coach Dr. Michael Briglia and assistant coach Dr. George Gerstle. Neither played favorites nor chose sides. They just simply made the decisions that needed made in order for the Profs to have the best chance at victory.
And we wouldn't have won anything were it not for those two guys. Dr. Briglia, made all of the right decisions. He put the right guys on the field. When he had an intuition to play a certain player, it always seemed to work out. During the course of the game, all of the decisions that he made were on the mark. In some of our closer games, you could directly attribute it to the victory, to some of the decisions that Dr. Briglia made.
Putting a lineup together of the 1979 team would still be a task to this day, but the meat of the order would remain the same. Between Charles Peel, Frank Albano, and Brendan Rosenberg, you had a combined .378 average, 124 RBI, 131 hits, 104 runs scored, and 30 home runs entering the World Series. Tack Upshur entered the World Series on a hot streak, having been named the regional MVP. Between him, Joseph Davis, and Dave Evangelos, there were 56 stolen bases. Then there was Jeff Datz, a 6'4", 210-pound catcher who, as a freshman, was most likely the wild card player Rowan needed in the '79 season. The pitching staff was electric with Norm Charlesworth, Scott Leisure, Gary Hollander, and of course, Matt McArrow. Entering the regional tournament in Lynchburg, Virginia, there wasn't a team Rowan was worried about. They were confident through and through.
'79, I'm going to be honest with you. We never felt we would lose a game. The one game we lost, you could talk about a call, it was one-run game. My hat's off to Patterson. You know, it was up at their place. They deserved to win the game. They won the game. But at the end of the day, none of us felt like we got beat. I never felt like we got beat in '79. I felt like if for some reason your score was higher than ours at the end of the last out, I just felt like we ran out of outs. We were going to get you. That's how good we were.
After dismantling Stillman behind Rosenberg's 5-for-5 day and McArrow's 13 strikeouts, the Profs had a tight battle against Virginia Wesleyan. That was until a 3-run ninth inning gave Rowan some breathing room. The Profs then faced their foe from North Jersey, Trenton State, and trailed by 1 in the ninth. However, the Profs put together some timely hitting and had the bases loaded for Upshur. The sweet swinging second baseman ripped a pitch down the left field line, scoring 2, sending Rowan to the regional final. There, it was a rematch against the same Trenton team, but this time it was no contest. Scott Leisure allowed 3 singles in the 6-0 win, sending Rowan to its 3rd straight World Series appearance.
The regional tournament against the likes of Trenton State back in the day, that was a lot more challenging for us. When we got to the World Series, we kind of hit the field in full stride. We had our hitting shoes on, our pitching shoes on, and our fielding shoes on. And as a result of those 3 things, most of the games were pretty well in hand.
And they were easy. No disrespect to anybody that was there. There was some tough, score-wise, you say, oh, that game was pretty close. In my opinion, it wasn't. It was just, we're going to get this done. And it was not being disrespectful for our opponent.
Rowan opened the World Series with a 7-3 victory over Mansfield. They followed that up with an 18-2 shellacking of the 1976 and 77 national champions, California State Stanislaus. On June 3rd, Rowan again faced California State Stanislaus, and behind McArrow's 10-strikeout performance and timely hitting by Ralph Wendell and Joe Davis, the Profs were victorious 3-0, claiming their 2nd straight national title.
We loved our teammates. We were all different. We had a band of brothers and a cast of characters from all over the place. When anybody stepped on this field, it was all business, it was the joy of the game, and it was an appreciation that you had an opportunity to play on this field and to play at this level.
We had 25 guys who were working together to achieve a common goal, and we did it very successfully. And if you think about it, most occupations out there, that's what people do. It's a group of people working together to achieve a common goal, and Glassboro prepared me very, very, very well.
What this team did in '78 and '79, and the people that I met, and my teammates, I speak on their behalf. I hope in this little brief thing, I love them. I never had so much fun in my life. And I've had a great life. I've had a wonderful life, I thank God, than when I was here.
When it was all said and done, Rowan ended with a 29-5 record in 1979. But if you subtract the Florida games, the Profs were 25-1. So how good was this team? A quote from then Marietta head coach Don Chalet, whose team went 40-4 that year and was ranked number 1 the entire regular season, says it all. Had we been in this tourney, there is no way we could have beaten Glassboro. Your club is too strong in all departments, especially pitching.
'79, we felt very confident that it's going to take an act of God, and that God's on our side, so that wasn't going to happen.